light something up. And I felt like the town lights, some of them were out too in certain spots. And so that even made it even worse. So I don't like it when it stays dark this long. So um, sometimes that affects us. And so I just want to bring that up. If you're lacking vitamin D, it is a real thing. Somebody told me not long ago, they said, oh, SADS is not a real thing. That's just an attitude you should correct or whatever. That is actual vitamin deficiency. In the state of Minnesota, there's nobody who is at the correct level all the time of vitamin D or D3, and that supports your immunity. And as soon as that goes down, then your body starts to overwork and it feels depressed, and that happens. So I just bring that up tonight, that I think when it's dark like this, you should go get some vitamin D and make sure you take it, because it is a vitamin that burns off on a daily basis. But you can get vitamins just by, your body will produce vitamin D if you just are in the sun on your face, right, hitting you for 15 minutes. But have you gone out and found the sun? Like, where are you? I want you to hit me for 15, no. Or you're standing there freezing while you're trying to get, well, I'm froze to death, but I did get sun on my face. So it's been a little bit more rough. And I like to bring this stuff up because sometimes we can start dysregulating ourselves or start thinking off when it can be something as simple as vitamin D. Or if you have mold in your house, this is the time of year where there's not enough air exchange going through most people's houses. Even in the hospital, if people have been ill or just maybe they had the flu or something and they came in, when they leave that room, they freeze out the room. They'll open the bedroom window and just freeze out that room, exchange some air, and start over. And that's how you make sure molds and viruses don't just keep transferring. So sometimes just open your window, freeze out your bedroom, make some air exchange, and then, you don't have to do it all the time. Just freshen the place up. But if you have mold in your house, it can cause you to feel like you're crazy. The spores from it can get in the mind and make you feel that way. If you have on your bathtub that orange type of slimy stuff in the corners, you probably should wash your bathtub. But even though you're messing with that stuff, that's a form of mold. That's called candida. And that particular stuff getting into your sinuses or into your body can cause people to go out of their minds. A lot of people don't know that. So just check those two areas. I'm not saying you're here tonight losing it, but I am saying, in order to support yourself, to make sure that those things aren't going on in your house, okay? Let's see. I think that's all I wanted to bring up about that. Hope Dealers next Wednesday will be Kira's going to be sharing on a subject, and I hope you come on out for that. But tonight I was going down a certain path, and the Lord redirected me and said to deal with a certain subject, and that is making plans and what it does when you make a plan. I always tell people without a plan have a plan to fail. So if you go to make a plan, there's something that happens inside of you because a plan actually has a commitment. So if I plan to go to the store, I can have that idea. That's an idea. I probably should go to the store and get some milk, right? Number one thing that people buy, I don't know why it is, but it's milk and bread. If they think a storm's coming here, that's the number one. Like, they got to get milk and bread or we're all going to die. I guess it goes like crazy during those times. But if you make a plan to go get your milk and bread, and it's an idea, but you're not really that committed to it. It's kind of one of those things of like, here's the plan, but we could take or leave that. I could suffer through it without the milk and bread and still be here tomorrow or next weekend. At the same time, when you make a plan, because there has to be a plan in place or you're going to get in trouble, someone's going to get hurt, you're going to end up being more destroyed than maybe you already feel you are. A plan has to be in place to get you to safety. That's not a debatable plan. That's not like, well, maybe I could just do without that. And so when there's something like that going on and it's different, it does something different inside of us. Because the first type of plan I described, you really don't have to make a commitment. You just debate and you play around, and it's probably more what you feel like. We probably should go to the store. It's not a life or death thing. And so you kind of have a plan, but it isn't that type of plan that's like, we have to make a plan. If we don't have a plan in place, it could kill someone. If we don't have a plan in place, I'm going to go backwards instead of forward. I've got to make a plan. So in that, making the plan does something in the inside of us where it actually, just to make a plan, can root up trauma. And most people, I don't think they realize that, because trauma will sit in that spot where it's clustered in your brain, but it's something you're used to, kind of being slapped around by or whatever it is. And you'll have that. But once you make a commitment around a plan that's going to move you forward or bring about structure, it riles that all up. Have you ever noticed that? So considering a plan, like I said, should I go to the grocery store and get bread tonight? It depends on what I feel like by the time we're done. So that's kind of a plan, but that's more of a consideration. When life puts you in a spot where change is happening, and you've heard me say over and over, all crisis demands change, all change demands decisions, and you have to figure out what those decisions are based in or what options that you have. But you look at the options, and then what does it do? I better make a plan. You're making a plan out of the options that you have. You have to say no to certain options and yes to other ones, and then the plan is made around that. Now, the way that it wrestles up the trauma or puts things in question is that kind of plan says, I'm committed to this. And that'll make your brain freak out. See, if you keep it where it's kind of, flowy, kind of like, we'll see if we go to the grocery store for bread, then it doesn't feel as threatening to you. It doesn't feel like you're going to pass or fail. It's just flowy. But once, you got to go to a class for rehab, or you're going to go to jail. Or once there's something that is there that says you actually have to make a plan. Some people are in real situations where you may lose your children, or there may be something that it's like, it feels like life and death, and it really does have a life and death perspective. These are big things. And so you can't just go, it's a crisis, but I'm not going to make decisions. It's a crisis, but I'm not going to have a plan. But as soon as you say, yeah, I probably should make a plan, the insides, your subconscious starts going, I got about 25 files that just happened the last week that says, I don't know how to make a plan. I can't make a plan. This plan is going to implode. It'll probably be a failed plan. Those are all the things that'll start coming up. And it makes it hard for you to make a commitment on the plan. Now, if you use your temper to make a plan, this is what sometimes people do. They'll wait. It's like procrastination. And procrastination will be like, no, it'll be fine. It'll all work out. I don't really need a plan or whatever. I can't always think about this, or I will fall apart. So, I'm just going to go to work. I'm just going to go do whatever. Well, then all of a sudden, really what you're waiting for subconsciously is kind of like those people that, you may be one of them. I know I was on certain subjects, where you wait and you do cram study, for a test, or you got to write 1,000-word something or whatever. You wait till 12 o'clock the night before. And it's like you have no motivation to do it until you're in crisis. Anybody else identify with that? And you're like, then I know I have to do it. I'm going to be forced to do it. And then suddenly you'll feel really productive because you're running on adrenaline. You're taking all 5 cups of coffee, all this stuff. I got to get this done. I got to, And then if you pull it off, you're like, it rewards you with this success feeling, but it's a horrible way to go about the plan. It damages you, lack of sleep, high adrenaline, high cortisol, all this stuff, and yet you accomplished it, so there's a reward that says, hey, that's how we should do it. That's how we should do it. Not a good plan. You can get the stuff turned in, with that kind of plan, but not a good plan. If you practice that as a kid especially, and now you have to have a plan and you have to commit to the plan, then the commitment will be like, let me just wait a little bit here. I'm going to wait until probably the last minute to make this decision. I know I'm supposed to turn this bill in. I'm supposed to pay this certain thing or they're going to shut the lights off. I know. And then all of a sudden, I got to deal with this. It's the day of. It's a subconscious way of saying, I put that in stasis for long enough, and now I'm going to let it out, and it's going to drive me to have to fulfill this plan. It's a training. It's a survival type of trauma training that will cause that. It isn't really that you just say, hey, I think that's a good way to do things. Because when I point it out, I can see by the look on your face, you're like, yeah, I do that, but that's probably not a good way to do things. You know, so you have that. But it's the feeling is, but that's what I got to do. That's the technique I have to finally make a commitment to do something. Oh, right? How many of you speed clean that way? Yeah, 3 families flying in from Florida. It's almost Thanksgiving. They're going to do that. It's at your house, and you waited till the night before to organize stuff. So the thing is, it's not to point that out like, you know, why'd you wait till the night before or whatever, and we just say, well, I don't know, and not deal with it. You have to dig through and peel the onion on that one. What is it that you're using that technique for? Why do we have to be driven before we'll accomplish it? I want you to think about that a little bit. Because if you're going to be self-aware and you're going to problem solve, you got to come up with talking to yourself enough to figure that out. And not everybody's going to have the same reason. One young man I talked to, his reason was fear of failure. He said if he waits till the last minute, then it's high adrenaline. And, I mean, he'd get high. He'd do everything just so he could accomplish that thing that he should have been taking a month to pull off. Somehow he's in, ultra stress mode or whatever. The feeling behind it is if I get close to just doing it casually, it's going to fail. Somehow I'm not going to pull it off. Somehow. So he would use that technique as a way of driving him to secure he was actually going to do something. He didn't trust himself enough. If I said you got 2 weeks to do this, he didn't trust himself that he was ever going to do a good job or do something. That's just how he explained it. And so he would wait, and then all of a sudden he'd get this adrenaline. I got to get this done. And then freaking out, calling friends. Can you help me? Trying to pull on people. Ever have someone pull on you like that? And then you say, well, sure, I can help. When do you have to have it done? 2 hours. Could you help me clean my house? You're going to be here in 2 hours. You're like, what? And you're thinking to yourself, why did you wait that long? Right? This is not a get on anyone's case communication class tonight. This is a class where it's like, let's figure out why we do that, because that's a trauma response. And once you wait to the last minute and you don't, you might have pulled that off. Let's say if I crammed for a test, I think I'd pull that off better when I was younger than I would now. I'm just saying, there's certain things you can wait till last minute and then you just don't pull them off the same. And it's no good for you. And the adrenaline's high and all of those different things. And so then you know for sure it's going to be a fail. And once you don't pull that thing off, you have to, let's say you have relatives coming and they're counting on you, and you don't pull off whatever it is they were counting on, then now you feel bad for them, you feel bad for yourself, you feel condemned, you'll be like, see, they should have never asked me to begin with. They know that I just can't follow through on anything. Why did they ask me? I mean, I'm a loser. And what you'll do is turn and attack yourself. That's going to solve the problem. Like, if I attack myself hard enough, I'll just quit making commitments. Well, when you quit making commitments, you also pull back into isolation. Because part of life is making a commitment that you'll show up. I must show up to my job. I committed to that. But once you pull back on this commitment and this thing fails or whatever, after a while, it's such a spiral down feeling that you literally will feel like, I'm not going to try anything or do anything. I'm not going to try anything or do anything. I'm not going to commit to anything. And that's where I'll have some relatives who do this. I have some people that I know who you can tell by their body action. They're just like, whatever. That's when whatever comes out. Whatever is really a distancing word. And especially if you drag it, whatever. That's supposed to like really distance us at this point, whatever. And when that happens, it's a way of saying there's no way to finish an equation. It's just whatever. You don't get to start 2 + 2 and then it equals 4. It's just whatever. So nobody can grab a hold of a whatever, including yourself. So if I would say whatever, I'm actually going into a form of dissociation and denial. I'm like, whatever. And tied behind that whatever is I don't have to deal with this. I might lie to myself about this. That's what denial is, by the way. You have to lie to yourself. To really go deep into denial. Dissociation just means I'm not looking at you. I'm not paying attention to you. I am away from you right now. And so I'm going to go do this over here. You're out of my mind. And I get to do these other things. Well, what happens is when you enter that stage that says I can have these two options of denial and dissociation to support the fact that I'm not going to commit to anything. Right? See, because if I can dissociate from it and I can lie to myself about it, I don't have to make a commitment to help solve it. I don't have to participate. So I've had it where people have come to a class, and maybe I've done this in past myself. I like to be blunt about things and just get it out there, because why dance around it? Where you're sitting in a class and you automatically, there's a subject comes up and you dissociate and you go into denial. And, part of you, still you came to the class because you wanted to be healed. But if I dissociate and I don't commit to anything, I also can develop a reasoning that says, well, if this class is supposed to do what this class is supposed to do, it should do something for me. I'm not going to commit to really participate. I'm not going to make a plan for myself. I'm not going to get into that because I'm just trying to stay. I need the answer, but I'm trying to disassociate away from the plan to get to the answer. Because the plan to get to the answer seems so painful. It requires me to do something, and I feel broken. And I feel like I can't get up again. And I feel like I don't know what to do. And I'm not going to show anybody that part of me. Because if I show that part of me, then people will see my failure part. Because you've already said to yourself, the reason I don't make a commitment is because it's based on me. All of this. And I don't really like all of this. I don't believe in all of this. You see what I'm saying? And it can run so deep, even though we started out just a few minutes ago kind of laughing about how we wait till the last minute to do something. Waiting to the last minute to do something that has to do with your emotional health, your spiritual health, your mental health, and your physical health. Because remember, to be a whole person, you have to be whole mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. Spirit person always trumps the rest, right? Who you are. Because what we're walking around in is just dirt and water. So, yeah, we got to take care of our body. But it is the lowest level of who we are, this dirt and water we're walking around in. Who you are as a spirit, highest level. What you're going to do with your soul, which is your mind, will, and emotions, is a whole nother thing. Somebody's got to be in charge, and that person in charge has to be you, which is your spirit that lives in this dirt and water. Your dirt and water don't know what to do. Who's going to take care of this dirt and water? It has to be you, right? And then how you are able to grab a hold of your soul, your mind, will, and emotions, there's all choices involved in there. You have a choice to where to get knowledge and how to get knowledge, how to process knowledge, how to act knowledge out, how to get understanding. That's your choice. But who does that? Ain't going to be your body. So it has to be who you are as a spirit. Right? You see that? And so many times we give our spiritual part the least amount of attention. I don't really want to see who I am and why God created me. And that's just too hurtful. It's too painful or whatever. Let's talk about you right now. Let's go over here and do this thing or whatever. And a part of making a commitment, your commitments come based out of many times how you feel about yourself or what you believe your destiny is to begin with. You know, like if you have children, you are here for your children. That's part of your destiny. It's kind of a big deal, right? And you can't dissociate from that. You can't deny that. That has to be like, how do I rule and reign that? That's going to have to be a spiritual thing. So it takes who you are, finding out who you are, and how to minister to who they are, finding out who they are. That's big. That takes a lot of commitment. That takes a ton of work. When we feel like we've failed or others have failed us, and that's the repeated cycle, then when we say, we got to get to work on this project, it's like, oh, you haven't even started. Oh, it'll feel like more work, more working on me, more working on the steps to get there. Then are you going to make a commitment to do that? Not really. There's a big part of us that has areas that are wounded where we gave up. And we're sitting in the give up mode right now. There's a part of our soul that says, I know we need to make a commitment and get going on something. But I just give up. I'm tired. It's hard. And if that's your language, you can understand that that language does not support commitment. Now, when God gives me something to do, because of my relationship with him, I don't just answer him, like, sure, yeah, whatever you want, I take time and pray. I mean, it's a bit, because I'm about to make a commitment I have no intention of backing off on. Right? I don't have an intention of backing off on this. So it has to be one of these things where I have to let my yes be yes and my no be no. I need to know that I know that I know. Which means I got to search me. I got to let him search my heart because it's a spiritual thing first. I'm not waiting on my body. So if you converse with your body and say, hey, body, do you want to, get that job down at Walmart and get going on that? Your body's going, I don't think so. I don't want to commit to any of that. Your body would like to be pampered and taken care of. And that's just your body. That's how it works, right? Your soul will debate your commitment level based on injury, were you hurt? Are you afraid of something? Are you afraid of yourself that you would try something new or commit to something you're not going to pull off? See, that's the soul. The soul, it gets messy. And on a good day, you have ever noticed when you make a soul commitment instead of a spiritual commitment that says, God's going to help me do this because I cannot do this on my own. But you make a soul commitment that goes, and they're going to hire me, and it's going to be a great pay, and it's wonderful. You have that whole, it's going to be great. I called my friend and told her all about it and everything. Well, now the setup is you got to do this. And we rely on that emotional piece to get us to do this. Well, that's great on a great emotional day. But what if you hit a week where your emotions suck? Bad memories came up. Maybe you weren't feeling good and it just hit a cycle inside of you that's like, oh, here we go again. And all of this stuff. Now it's not so exciting, but you made a commitment. So who's going to get you to work? Your body? Well, you better be in it. It's nice, if you're in your body when you take it to work. But at the same time, it's not body driven. You don't check with your body in the morning. And you don't check with your soul. Oh, I feel all of these different things, so I'm not going to do it. Because we'll never do anything. One of the rules to success is do the next right hard thing. Because anything on an emotional high will seem easy as long as your emotions are supporting you. Our emotions are so finicky. I don't trust my emotions. Sometimes I have to say, be quiet. I'm trying to think, Because if you let them be the one in charge, oh my goodness, the underside of your brain will get lit and start telling you all this stuff. And it'll send all kinds of sensations. It'll start bringing up files. Remember this sensation? Remember how horrible that was or what? I don't trust my emotions. My emotions have been touched by sin. They've been hurt. So I know my subconscious will flick out stuff and my emotions will do different things. I have to look at it like I'm a spiritual being and I'm working with me and God are working on this. His super on my natural is working on this. He's bigger than who I am. I'm not a superhero. I'm not going to pretend that I'm God himself. I'm going to ask him for help. My spirit is asking for help. And then I turn and I look at my body and I'm like, you're coming with me. I don't want to. You are, get up. You're coming with me. Right? And then my soul will start the argument of, I ain't talking to you. I already talked to God, and that's what he said for me to do. This is what would benefit my family. This will help our children. This is what's going to go on. And so we've settled this already. I'm not going to go back on that commitment because it's been settled. It's truth that it's based in. And your soul will be, yeah, bud, remember the time? And you just have to say, quiet. We can work through that. But you and the body are coming with me. And make that commitment to go. There is a subconscious teaching, and what I mean by that is we pick up different trainings around us, and we don't even know we're being taught to act a certain way, and that is where you do follow your flesh, is what we call it. We follow our soul and our dirt and water, and we call that self-care. Self-care first is spiritual. Because you don't even know how to take care of those other two areas unless you've taken care of your spiritual self. You ever think of that? You don't even know who you are. How are you going to take care of your physical body and your soul? If you're not sure where you came from and where you're going to go when you die, how are you going to take care of that area? These are big things that have to be settled. And once you know those things, there's something to making a commitment because there's somebody higher than who you are that you're trusting in. And there's a bigger plan. If you just look at your little plan, you can lose hope on your little plan in a heartbeat. And that's the only other way that we combat that little plan is we make a bigger plan on our own. We make grandiose plans. I have no plan at all. It doesn't matter. Or here's the grandiose plan. I'm tired of sitting around. Everything's going to change. We make announcements to people. This is it. I'm working out 3 times a day, and we're going to blah, blah, blah. We just have this whole big plan. Deep down, if you check your heart, you already know you're not going to pull it off. But you're making big vows to yourself. It's coming out of the soul. It's coming out ideas where you feel pushed against the wall, and so now I got to do something really big. Well, that's the same thing as cramming for a test. I waited, I was depressed, I'm in this thing, and, I'm just holding, and then all of a sudden you get up one day, and it's like, I got to get this thing done. I am tired of this. And we make this over-the-top grandiose plan, and we're just all over, drinking tons of coffee, trying to get it all done. It's that cramming thing. You're cramming for a test. And it would be better to get up. There's people who suffer physiological depression, mental depression. That means of the body or of the mind, in the soul or whatever. And you as a spirit, you're trying to help that out. The Bible even says, you can have a broken spirit. Who you are as a person is broken. That takes some time to heal. Right? So, but have you ever noticed that there's no island for us to get sent to We really wish that there was, where it's like, in the end, how would I say it? You have that alternative place to go. I'm at the end. I don't feel like I have any energy to do this. I can't really make a plan, but I'm going to go to the island for 2 weeks. I'll come back really refreshed. Well, you still have to pay your rent. Who's going to be here to do blah, blah, blah? I mean, how do you get off the ride? Right? And then if you've really gone through a lot of stuff, if you found a way to get off the ride, sometimes we ain't coming back because we still have to face that thing that feels too big for us. That thing about making a commitment is not making a vow based on who you are. We're all inadequate to fulfill these vows. It's having a realistic estimation of who God is and that he will help you in your time of need. Which means your plan, like I've said, when I'm dealing with people who are suffering depression, here's a big plan. Get up and take a shower. So they'll come to my office and they'll say, what should I do? And I'm like, go home and take a hot bath. Lay some clothes out that you're going to wear tomorrow that you haven't worn in a long time. And look like you're going somewhere. See what I'm saying? Because the more your soul convinces you you're not going anywhere, you'll start dressing and acting and eating and doing all these different things like you're not going anywhere. You have to get up and face the day like you're going somewhere, whether you feel like it or not. So someone will present, get a job, do this, be over this department, da-da-da. Well, if you're suffering depression, that sounds way too big. So if something's way too big and that's how you estimated it, that doesn't mean do nothing on this side. You might have to start. The next right hard thing is like, I got to make sure I take a bath. Actually combed my hair today, and do you know what I'm saying? That might seem like the next right hard thing. But if you don't practice conquering those things, if you're depressed or feeling anxious, you're not going to be able to make a plan about the big things. So starting recovery, getting over emotional stuff is, yes, you have to dig in it. Yes, you have to unpack it, and you have to reframe it, and there's all this work that has to be done. But self-care is spending some time with God and finding out who you really are. And take care of this temple that you live in. You're making a plan to just do very basic things and then add to that. Basic things and then add to that. Right? Get some counsel as when you add to it too. Sometimes people go too fast. I did this for 3 days and now I'm a superhero. Well, don't do that. Superhero or loser is kind of how we treat ourselves. That's addictive behavior thinking. That's immature thinking, where we're either a loser or we're going to be a superhero. God is right here in the middle, and that's where you should be. In what's real, realistically, we have to be able to look at ourselves and say, to make a plan is one thing. First, it better be a realistic plan. And who do you have to talk to that can help you? You write out a plan. Here's my plan, right? Who do you have to say, here's my plan, what do you think? You should have somebody that can hold you accountable to that, right? Get God's opinion and different things, but if you don't trust yourself, have somebody look at that and be like, oh, snap, that's not realistic. You put way too much stuff on here. Or sometimes people are frozen and not able to make a plan, so how can you commit to something you can't even make? So then you have to have somebody come alongside of you and say, let's pick a few things that you could do this coming week and accomplish that. Well, it doesn't seem like that's enough or whatever. Well, what are you doing now if you're not doing anything now? It's like saying, I need money, but I don't want to work at McDonald's. Well, McDonald's has money that you don't presently have. Go get it. And then look for a better job as you go. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Don't come and say, I don't have money, and just stuck. You're stuck. Go get something in the in-between that you might not even like. I'm just going to do this. I don't know. It gets crazy. I'll do it. Right? Because I need money. Money's just a tool. Because you're not going to work at McDonald's or different places and now find your identity in your job. Don't do that. Like, I finally am successful and not a loser anymore because I work at Walmart. No, that's something you do. Who you are is totally different. Finding who you are is totally different. We can all do all these different jobs. So it's like that. You have to have somebody to be able to say, God will help you say that. Here's where reality is at. Here's what I'm seeing. And then you weigh that out. You took on too much, or you need to take on something. And let that something prove to yourself you're still here. Because some of us have lost hope enough that we backed up enough to committing to anything that we don't even know if we're still here. It's like backing up enough that we don't communicate, we don't build relationship or whatever, but I'm backing enough to save myself. And then you're in a room with 1,000 people, and this is the feeling. I don't think anyone even knows I'm here. I don't think I exist. Do you know that sometimes young people especially, but it works across the board, some people will cut for various different reasons, but part of cutting the body is to say, okay, I'm still here. Whew. I saw the blood. Okay, I'm here. Because the mind will ramp up to a point you have no way of it's looking to be grounded, and it's like, I can't ground myself. There's nobody here. I cut myself. I saw okay, so I'm still here. I'm still, okay. That's how you can disappear within yourself. It's a loss of hope. And if you're watching online or you're listening here and saying, I've had that at times, please come talk to me. That's not a state of mind you want to stay in, because God sees you. I see you. Others are seeing you. It's whether or not you see yourself. But sometimes you just need someone else to say, I see you. Yeah. And once you feel seen, it's easier to make a plan because you know you exist. You disappear within yourself. It's like you're not here, but you're trying to be here. Well, how do you make a plan with that? Right? It's a way of backing off. So years ago, we had a foster child that disappeared. She was in the house, but she was gone. And even she was gone so much that even to the point of disassociating, I've shared this story years ago already, where she stepped on a tack. And there was blood just drooling off her foot. She was walking around with a tack in her foot. And I'm like, hey, you got to, hey. And she's like, oh, well, look at that. Pulls it out the bottom of her foot. That's true disassociation. You know, if there was a family meeting we'd have in the house, because we had 12 kids for a long time, doing foster care, and we had 3 of our own. And then we'd sit them all down on the couch or whatever. She would be the child that would just be staring. So was she there? Kinda. But she wasn't there. It was a way that she had trained herself to be so disappeared, as she called it, so gone, that you just don't feel. It's a protective agent. But life doesn't afford us to stay in that state, does it? You still have to progress. You still have to grow. It's pulling on us to do it. And it's how God created us. He wants us to have spiritual milestones that we reach and things like that. He wants us to be full of joy and peace. He wants that for us. But if we disappear and then we're sitting there saying, I don't think he even knows I exist. Who left, you or him? It's our own protection to pull back and say, I'm out. I'm out. And isn't it frustrating when life will say, but you still have to commit to doing this. You have to commit to, you got to go here, you got to get this done or whatever. And you're in that state. Very difficult to have the want to even get up and make a commitment. So it starts with, which might seem small, but it is kind of big, just procrastinating stuff to the last minute so you're driven to make the commitment. right, to fulfill the commitment. Like, hurry, we got to scramble or whatever. It'll start like that. And after a while, a person just doesn't commit to anything. Just, I don't know, whatever. See, there's no commitment. There's no wrong, right. It's just whatever. It's a floaty word, right? And it's a real good one to dissociate with. You know, their argument going on in the house, the famous things like, well, whatever. And you walk off. You told that other person, this is not finishable. We're not going to bring it to closure because it's whatever. Well, what is whatever? We don't know because we're not going to talk about it. Whatever. So you're not getting anywhere, right? So tonight, when I prayed about tonight, it was just more the Lord was saying, let's talk about commitment and what could possibly be some blockers within ourselves where we get afraid to commit to something. A lot of people have big dreams that never happen because they never committed to fulfilling them. Like they'll sit and watch American Idol, for instance, which I don't even know if that's on anymore, or some show with singing, and cry because they've always wanted to be a singer, but they don't sing. You actually have to sing to be a singer, I'm pretty sure. Right? There's some that goes on there where the singing has to happen to be a singer, right? But the commitment to that is not made because of the fear of failure. Yeah? So what other things that we're afraid of failing on that we're not being productive because, well, I'll probably fail at this and I'll probably fail at that. And so we have real small commitment areas because that's all I can handle. And it's based in fear when there's more to you than that. Oh, there's so much more to you than that. There's people, and I remember Ashley talking about when she came up here the first time and shared, I think you shared your testimony. You look calm to me, but she was like inside, just like, and now she could probably come up and share it right now and not be afraid. But when I asked you and you got up here, the absolute challenge of the brain, you had to make a commitment. You said you were doing it, right? So now you have to follow through on the commitment. The absolute thing that was there, though, had that feeling of like, this is going to fail. I'm going to sound so dumb. This is going to be so stupid. Otherwise, why would your body shake? See, subconscious fear of like, this is going to be a fail. I can't even do this. I'm too so far from the truth. She speaks all over the place now. But somebody's got to prove that to themselves. And if you don't make a commitment to do a small thing, then you won't make a commitment to the next size thing, and you'll never get to do that thing. If you don't make a commitment to start playing the piano and it sounds like ding, 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 and you're like, oh, I'll never play piano. Well, you got to stay at that because you made the commitment. Now I'm going to go to the next level and commit to that. I'm going to finish what I started. The biggest thing that will stop us is fear. And who are you afraid of? Yourself. You're in question. Do you see that? What would be a thing, you don't have to share, but you can share. What would be a thing that you'd say that you've always wanted to commit to, but you never did because, I don't know if I could do that. Does anybody have one of those things? Yes. School. Did you ever start school and stop? Yes. You're like, I'm now applying. You know, and you're like, I just applied. They're going to respect, you know that feeling? And then when it comes, you're like, this is a really big what? Commitment. And then what it does is a commitment will cause your life to get measured. Did you know that? If you make commitments, there are people who go, sure, yeah, I'll be in the choir, I'll clean the church, I'll work 2 jobs. Yes, they say yes to everything. But their commitment never organizes or prioritizes their life. When you make a commitment to work out, you say, I'm going to get up at 5 o'clock every morning and work out. It's going to change your whole day. Like your whole day gets changed. I know. And you're like, I didn't think that was going to, I was just committing to working out. Yeah. especially when your body's sore after doing that, and then you got to go to work anyway, and there's all this stuff, and then you'd want to sleep in, then it will say, should I stay up this late? Because remember, tomorrow I got to work out. See how it starts prioritizing your life? Do we like that? Most people don't like that. Stay out of my life. I just want to roam. I just want to do it as I willy-nilly kind of feel to it. And that's another reason we don't make commitments, because they will hold you. The holding you to your commitment will rearrange your life. It prioritizes it. This is why a lot of people don't decide. They know there is a God, but they will not decide for him. Because if you decide, if you ask them, do you know there's a God? Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's a God. Do you want to live for him? No, well, I don't, I think I do. And then it'll just go all into this flowery kind of thing, right? And the reason it goes flowery, because if you say yes, then you got to do that thing. And when you do that thing, what does that thing look like? It takes up time, space, and energy, doesn't it? It'll benefit you the best way in the long run. There's nothing that will benefit you better than your relationship with God. That's where you came from, and that's where you'll return. Got to have that relationship right. That's where peace comes from. So, but if you say, I commit to that, it gets jiggy. Then it's fighting for your right to get in the car and go to church on Sunday morning when none of the kids want to go because they're sleeping in. I will tell you right now, from being a pastor, the best sleeping times for our children is always Sunday morning. When they were little, we could have 12 kids. They wouldn't sleep in any other day. Let me tell you. But Sunday morning, you're dragging them, you're trying to get them dressed and everything. Why? Because there was a commitment there, and they weren't sure they wanted to participate in it. But guess what? I'm the parent. You get to come along on my commitment. When you get older, you can decide what you want to commit to. So I'm just saying this because it will rearrange your life, and that's a fear also. It's like then there could be permanent change. I could graduate, whatever you want to go for, then I would have to commit that I'd actually have to use that certificate. Then I'd have to talk to people. Then I'd have to set up an office. Or I'd have to get a job that's around that, and I don't even know. Well, fear of the unknown is a real thing that can cause us to go, So then you got to back up the big plan. Do you really want to do that? Yes, I want to do that. It's scaring the crud out of me right now. But just back up and do the next right hard thing. Apply. Get that thing. Start the classes. Don't worry about this over here. I'm just doing the classes. You see? And it'll rearrange it. Some of you have heard my story of running a preschool with Grandma Bonnie on our property, helping moms that to have lower income ability to be able to be at the preschool, right? And so we felt really called to do that. But I also felt called to graduate all kinds of things. So I just set up my computer during the nap time, and I put it on the toilet in the modular where we were doing the daycare. And she's on one side listening, I'm listening for the babies on the other side, and in the hallway, that's where the John was. And I just put my computer there and graduated all kinds of things. That was my desk. Because I made a commitment. And I believed in the commitment. But my brain would go, I don't know how I can do this. And yeah, guess what? Here's what I've found about life. When you say, no, I can't do this, and it's too hard, and it's too much, and it's too late, if I came up to you and said, if you do this, I will give you $1 million. Suddenly, motivation. I am going to go to rehab right now. I will figure this out with whatever it is. You're motivated because it's like, yes. But why don't we have the motivation without the $1 million? You have to ask yourself that question. So, how many of us have made a commitment, backed off on it, made it again, backed off on it? Yeah. A commitment can just be like, I'm not eating, like I talked about years ago, I'm not eating any more Little Debbie cakes. It's my commitment to my body. Right? Well, then I do it, and then not do it, and then do it, and not. It's just like quitting smoking cigarettes or whatever it is, right? You make a commitment to do that, and you already know, oh, man, this is going to be really hard. Well, yeah, you're going to fight. There's going to be a battle. There's going to be something. But in the end, you made the commitment. You stay in the fight. It's not an all or nothing. What are the things that you're committed to right now? Think about that. Do you have a commitment with God? Do you have a commitment for your mental health, for your physical body? How are you taking care of your physical body? What are we doing? Did you commit to any classes or anything that gets you that new information? Anything? So think about it, because sometimes we're laying in bed and we can't sleep and we're so mad. My life sucks. I remember laying there just like, it's so bad. It sucks. I feel like I'm the one that's picked on. I feel, and you can actually go into pity party, or when you make yourself a victim, everyone else is a bully. So I used to lay there and make everyone else a bully. Every situation was a bully to me. Yeah, and they got this and I don't. And I mean, I would do that. So that gave me reason to not really make any commitment, because see, all these people control me. Is that true? No. But if you see yourself as a victim, they all do. They just look at you weird. I mean, if you come through this and you're like, I made a commitment, I'm going to come to the next Hope Dealers or whatever, and I just look at you and maybe I'm thinking about something and I go. And you think I did something at you. See, she don't even like me. She looked at me or whatever, and you just drop your commitment. Really? Is that easy? A look can make you drop your commitment? You have to be thinking, am I making everyone else a bully because I've made myself a victim? Have I been victimized? Yes. Incested, raped, all kinds of different things. So I know what it's like to be a victim. I can't say that like, well, I wouldn't know what that's like. No, I know exactly what that's like. But how long do I stay one? That's up to me. That's up to me and my view of people and unpacking it in a different way, reframing how I see different things, taking charge of my own life and getting up and making a commitment and then holding myself to it. Prove to yourself you're here. I see you. God sees you. You're here. You're present. So you can take that now and face some of the commitments and say, am I not doing this because everyone is a bully? And you might have been bullied, but you don't have to stay there. I remember being really angry with my father because some things had happened and abuse and everything. And I used the abuse between me and him as my crutch for why I didn't have to make a commitment. Because I've been through so much, and my dad did this and he did that. Did he do those things? Absolutely. Yeah, he did. Was I a victim? Uh-huh. So we're going to just do this the rest of our life? Why would I give him that power? Why would I give those incidences the power to control my destiny? Well, see, you have to believe that you do have a destiny, and you have to believe that you are spirit, and you're here to make a difference in this world. You're here for a reason. You have to find it. And in the weeks to come, we'll talk about that and how we can do that. So how many would say, yeah, absolutely, just being honest, there's certain commitments I'm just afraid of. I just won't do it. Yeah, that's just being honest. I mean, I think one of the healthiest things is to be able to just go, yeah, me. How many of you have bad thoughts? Me. How many of you? You just have to be able to see yourself, call a spade a spade. Here's where I do good. Here's where it's jacked. That's a clinical term, jacked. I have a lot of clinical terms I throw out. And so here's where I do good. Here's where it's jacked. Ain't nobody in this room totally jacked. Where you couldn't find one good thing. Are you kidding me? Whether I know you or not, all I have to do is spend 10 minutes with you talking. I could tell you, I see this gift in you. I see this operating. You got this going on in your life or whatever. But many times you can't see that. Because like I've said before, the person, when we've been hurt, the person that we protect versus us by putting all our focus on out here, don't hurt me anymore, and everyone else is a bully, and I'm the victim. So we think that we're protecting ourselves. But then in the end, what we're doing is we're holding ourselves back from accomplishing anything. And we think we're protecting ourselves, then who's hurting us now? Oh, that would be me. And part of it is we hung out with ourselves long enough in the victim role that we're tired of hanging out with us. Ever just want to leave yourself to the side and go on vacation? Like, all these thoughts, you stay here. I'm going on vacation. I deserve a break today, right? And I'm not going to stay here with you. I'm done with you. But everywhere you go, there you are. Oh, it's so frustrating. But yet you get to know you and get to be able to love you, then you can hang out with you. Then you actually want to know, hey, what am I really like? Sometimes if you've been through abuse, trauma bonding, different things that we're controlling, your advice of who you are is everything they said. I don't care if you're 50 years old, all of a sudden you're apart from that situation and you're like, yeah, now I'm going to go be me. I'm just going to go be me now because I'm free to be me. Who am I? I have no idea. Right? Or I get to do stuff now. You're not going to control me anymore. We walk off and you're like, what am I supposed to do? I don't even know. I'm lost. Because so much of the cues were taken from that area, from those people, from whatever it is that was giving you that message. And then you think that's who you are. Wherever there's abuse, there's a lie from the pit of hell. I'm just blunt about it. I don't play with it. I don't have a nice little clinical term that'll be like, that's this. I'm like, no, that's a lie from the pit of hell. It's trying to kill you and your destiny. And we don't play with it. There's a part that we have to realize when we've been lied to that should make us angry, because anger says, I want something to stop. This needs to stop. I'm done being the victim. And you should be allowed to express that anger. Because part of being a victim, a true victim, is when someone's abusing you, you can't even express that you're mad. Crying is wrong. Have you ever noticed that? You shouldn't feel that way comes out a lot. And you're like, it's too late, I already do. But even then, you should feel extra guilty that you already do, because they're telling you how you should feel, act, who you are, all of those different things. And now we're trying to break away from that and make commitments for ourselves. We don't even know who we are. So we have to start somewhere, right? We're not so broken that we don't have a starting point. Everyone's got a starting point. And your starting point might be different than my starting point or another person's. But you find that starting point and add to it. Doesn't that sound too simple? And part of it is because we've been in pain so much. We want the pain to stop. And anytime, you make big commitments to stuff. Somebody's like stabbing you in the leg, you'll agree to all kinds of things at that moment. Yes, I'll do. And that's what happens when you're in pain. The same thing is true if you've been in extreme pain for a long time. You're looking for, your dream is just to have the pain quit now. Right? But if you have noticed, if you've gone through abuse, you get away from the abuser, why do I still have a knife in my leg? Right? Why do I still feel like I can't breathe or whatever? It's not as bad as when you're with them, but it's there. That's training. So you have to learn how to take your own space, figure out who you are, and this is my space, and this is how I'm allowing myself to feel. I actually get to have emotions. I've shared the story of my mom, and there's new people, so I'm going to share it. My mom went through a lot of abuse when she was a kid and pretty much all through life, and she's had good times, but the bad times were bad, right? And so one of the things in our family that came against her, some of it was tradition, some of it was just plain abuse. She was not allowed to eat in the living room, but my dad would go eat in the living room, and he had to be served there, and us kids and her had to stay out. And if he called her, she had come right now. Right? So when she moved out on her own, after they went through a divorce, it was very interesting how I was there visiting her, and you had to go from the kitchen, and the living room was right here through the doorway. So I'm getting food, and all of a sudden I'm like, who is she talking to? I'm thinking, who came in and I didn't know about it? So I'm getting my food, I come around the corner, and she's standing there, and she says, you can eat in here. This is your house. See, she had to give herself permission. You can eat in here anytime you want. You can make a mess if you want. This is your house. And I saw that. I remember I just went around the corner and wept because I was like, once you have to give yourself permission to just live, that's bad. But guess what? In order to make a commitment to certain things, she made a commitment to heal. So she had to go in the living room, face the thing that was a bad memory for her, speak to that thing, and give it a reality check. Here's what's real. It's my house. I can waltz through here naked if I want to. It's my house. You know what I mean? You have to give it like, I'm taking ownership. This is my space. This is who I am. I'm finding out who I am. You have to take your space back. Now, in marriages, we share space. And in love, you're supposed to learn how to give and take in that. And it's beautiful. But when it ain't that beautiful, there's trouble, you're going to have that kind of effect. If you morph to your situation, you're not going to be able to make a commitment. So remember what I said. I said this. If you are facing a commitment right now, like, do I sign up for college? I love that example. I did that with a couple courses where I was like, now they're going to send me some. Well, then they start calling. And then that feels like they're calling. And I don't know if I should do that. You know, you start panicking. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about? And because you're really going to make this commitment. Because you already know if you make the commitment, it will prioritize your life. And you have to figure out, how do I do that? Well, if you've been in an abusive situation, and guess who the priority was? The abuser. So when did you learn how to prioritize your life? You didn't. Everything was like, 3 o'clock, he's home, or she's home, you know, or the boss just got here, or whoever it is that was dominating your life. It's like everything in your mind is they are the music and you're the one who dances. You don't get to pick the music. You just have to dance, right? And so then when you finally have opportunity to make a commitment to better your own self, that's why it's hard. You're not crazy. Anyone would go through that. If you've been through that, you're going to go through that. And so the reality check, sometimes we just need to know, hey, I'm not crazy. I guess that's what you go through. You got to take your space. You got to learn who you are. You got to settle where you came from and where you're going when you die. You got to prioritize your life according to that. Just chill and breathe. Amen. And it can feel like your life getting prioritized can feel like you're being abused all over again, and there's nobody there. Well, I made this commitment to this, and now it's demanding that I do this, and I have to have that class done, and the baby needs such and such, and I've got to see. Now, I don't know why do they have this class set up like this? See, then it has to be the bully, and we'll start attacking the very thing that is there to try to help us in the long run. It's there to help you. It's like, just give me some time. I will help you. I'll empower you. And you're like, yeah, well, you're just doing this to my life now, and I feel controlled, and I feel like you're stepping on me, and that's what it felt like when you were in abuse. And there ain't nobody there. You signed up for a class. Right? So I'm just giving you just that one way of doing it. These are all subconscious things that we don't know. That's why we stay frozen. And then this is what comes out of it. A lot of times gossip, attacking other people in your mind, watching TV, and you're like, yeah, she's so skinny. She blah, 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 blah. Did you know they're divorced? You know, that kind of thing will come out of. Where did that come out of? It's the bitterness of our heart because we're mad about our own life. And we start picking at these things out here that seem so unfair. And they just happen to have, like that old term where somebody had money and they said, they are born with a silver spoon in their mouth. I don't think they say that much anymore, but it's an old saying. And like, really? I'm pretty sure somebody worked for that, ran a business for that, stayed up nights for that. No, it just happened. Now, there are some people, they just get handed a bunch of dough, but then it usually doesn't work out well for them in the end. They can't hold on to it. But those who know how to hold on to it have that business mind, and they are working it. But we're mad because we haven't picked that thing and stuck to it, let it benefit our life. Because as soon as it prioritizes us, we feel control. We feel like we can't breathe. So I just want to see a show of hands. If anybody has gone to rehab and you made that commitment, you know what happens before you do that. A lot of times people, or people who are struggling with that, that's when you use the most. You're like, I have until tomorrow. Go. Let's see how close I can get to killing myself before I go in. Why? Why? Because there's a feeling that I just made a commitment to stuff that's going to reprioritize my life. I'm going to lose my freedom, and that feels like abuse. I'm already being abused. I haven't even gone to Teen Challenge or wherever you're going. I haven't even got in there yet, and these people are just in my face. No, they're not. You made a commitment for you. You didn't make a commitment to Teen Challenge or a Line of Health or any of those. You said, I'm going to go in. I'm making a commitment. I'm going to do whatever it takes, right? Did you notice that? But the subconscious thing says, now this feels like control. They took my phone for the first 2 weeks, and I couldn't do this with the blah, blah, blah. These people are controlling. Is that really their thing? No, it's your thing where you've been abused. It's your thing where you feel smothered. But you made this commitment, and it makes it really hard to walk through the commitment. So the only thing you have left is you have to attack them. My counselor said, and I just think it's so dumb, and they try this stuff, and I could teach the class. I've heard this stuff so many times already. I could teach the class. And this starts coming out. It's like this poison that spews because you're trying to protect yourself because a commitment is now rearranging your life and you feel controlled. If you make a commitment to work at Walmart, having to show up 8 to 5, controlled. Some people are like, I'm excited because I'm earning money and I get to meet new friends or whatever, because that's how their mental state is. But if you've gone through abuse, it's going to feel like control. It feels like everyone's sucking the life out of you. So the next time that I speak, we're going to go into why that would happen. Because if we dig into this and we figure this out, you might be in a spot right now where you're feeling controlled and actually you're not. You're not being controlled. You're having to prioritize your life, which means you have to face somebody. Who are you facing? You. I don't like me. Why do I have to face me? I don't want to talk to me. Me gets me in trouble. Me's so whiny. Me never follows through. Me. Leave me alone. I'm not taking me to work with me. So you will sabotage your own thing, thinking it's everyone else sabotaging it, when really God is saying, hey, let me help you through this commitment, reprioritize and structure your life. It'll be so good for you. In all the years I did foster care, and then we had a preschool with Bonnie when I moved here, and then I did 16 years of daycare and stuff besides ministry when we lived, and so kids were everywhere. And you could see kids that would come in to our house. We had a very structured daycare. And you know why we had it? Because we're so mean and we just, no, it's because kids love structure. No, they don't. They bounce off the walls and they get mean and want to kick you. That's when they when they feel like they didn't have structure or they didn't bond right. There's tons of reasons why. Then they'll act out. And the only thing can solve that is structure. You can't go with where they're going or the house will burn down, right? So you have to give them structure, but it's not law. It's not like you come in, you kids sit down right now and blah, blah, blah. That feels like abuse. But I mean, if you make structure fun and they, hey, this is what we're doing right now. Remember at 9 o'clock, this is what we do. We're having snack time or whatever. They will fall right in line with like, I feel safe because there's structure, and they'll start to succeed. This feels like ramping up and I have no grounding and I'm just all over the charts and whatever happens, I'll be touching stuff, throwing stuff, digging in drawer. And you're just like, this is a wild child. No, this is a child who's feeling something and doesn't know how to commit to one thing to the next. That had to be role modeled. And it can be fixed. And maybe you were that child. Just saying. If we're going to self-assess, we got to self-assess. Maybe we were running the streets. I had a little boy that came into our church that I went out and I was sharing the gospel in this neighborhood, and he was just a little guy, cute. I mean, just a little guy. But he was a what they call a street rat. I mean, hair all matted, everything. He'd go to the store by himself and way too young to be doing this. He had lice in the back area of his head. So I knew he was taking care of himself, and I had to try to figure out how I'm going to get this family food and all of this stuff. You never really saw the mom or dad, just him. And he thought he ran the whole trailer park. So I had to come in and be like, you know, I wanna sing some songs with my guitar, and we want to bring some puppets in here and stuff, and like do a little show for you guys. Would you like? I had to ask him like that. Would that be okay if we came in here like that? Because he was that kid who was just out there, and he thought he ran the whole thing. So we had to ask permission. Well, eventually he ended up in foster care and just blew out of everything because he couldn't do structure. He'd run the streets and survived for so long. He didn't even know how to be taken care of. He didn't know what nurture was. So we can have some of that in us. We can have a lot of that in us. That's what really it is. Not a bad person. He wasn't a bad person. I loved him. And I loved being around him because I loved just being there and giving him some structure and giving him some hope. And God feels that way about us, wherever we don't have that. Make sense? Did anybody have a question regarding the subject tonight? Well, I want to ask this. Can you anyone see an area where you have an aha moment? You're like, yeah, that's me. I don't do commitments. Did you have, yeah? Thanks for being honest. So I know I hit it tonight to be able to talk about this, and we'll go on and continue talking about it because we have to start taking it apart. Otherwise, we just talked about something you identified, and you're like, anyways, moving on, I'll just go back to the same thing. No, we have to figure out how we're going to approach this and make a commitment. Something small. Prove to yourself that you're going to commit to this, and that's what you're doing. Prove to yourself you can do that. Don't take on the big things to show yourself you're a superhero. We don't need to be a superhero. We just need to be right there in the middle, just doing the next right hard thing. Let's stand. I want to pray with everyone here. Thank you, Jesus. Father, we come before you in the mighty name of Jesus, and we thank you for how you love us. You get us in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing. And Lord God, it's just how you love us. And so we get the information. And once we know, we can't not know. And so we apply this. Show us as individuals how this applies to our life. We're asking for revelation, for revealing. Help us to see ourselves. In Jesus' name, amen. Thanks for coming out tonight. The Bridge Outreach has a free meal at 5:45 every Saturday in the basement, and then we do service up here, praise and worship, and would love to have you a part of that. All right?